Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rachel Maruzars. I'm Chief Development Officer for Sinai Chicago, and I am thrilled for today's event. We have been waiting for at least a couple years to be able to do this. In March 2020, I was part of our development team and really just part of the sidelines cheering on my colleagues, so many of you in the room who were on the front lines and have continued to be on the front lines over the past several years throughout the COVID pandemic, and really providing care, providing compassion. And the reason we're having this event today is because we want to celebrate our caregivers, celebrate all of you who've contributed so much, and particularly honor all of your contributions through the donation by a well-renowned local artist who is celebrating you in a very special way. Phil Gayter was inspired in 2020 to capture the historic moment of COVID and really honor the lives of so many of us, including our courageous healthcare professionals and including people across our society through a portrait series, a series of paintings which he titled Maskeraid, which featured people from all walks of life masked up and donning PPE. And we at Sinai Chicago are incredibly honored because he chose to paint, as part of this series, 3 healthcare professionals, all of whom were Sinai Chicago professionals, and in fact, all of whom are here to join us today. So today we have Dr. Sunita Mohapatra, we have Dr. Salman Mohiuddin, and we have Herbert Wandaki, a former Sinai nurse who couldn't keep himself away to join us today. So we're so thrilled to have you. And today, Phil, the artist, is here to present the portraits honoring our caregivers to Sinai Chicago. So I'm going to quickly turn this over to our president and CEO, Dr. Ngozi Ezike, just to say a few words and provide a little bit more context and inspiration before we turn it over to Phil.
Thanks, Rachel, and thanks for everyone who was able to come here, and congratulations and exciting. I'm so excited to welcome you here and unveil the artwork and honor not just these 3 art caregivers that you were able to represent physically in these portraits, but really all of our caregivers who they embody and who they exemplify. And we just, we went through a lot during the acute stages of the COVID pandemic, and you all represent just the dedication and the passion and the compassion that was needed to care for each other and to care for our patients. And so we know we've seen some difficult times, that whole acute stages of the pandemic. We definitely dealt with the COVID-19, but we had these other pandemics, if you will, that were happening at the same time in terms of the civil unrest and some of the racial injustice. And so we have seen so many people that have suffered in our communities from different impacts of things that were happening at the same time, and maybe some are still facing some inequities and facing some losses of opportunities. But we at Sinai try to stand in the gap for those difficulties. So again, our heroes, Dr. Mohapatra, Dr. Mohiuddin, and I'm excited to meet you, sir. I am excited for what you represent on behalf of our caregivers and the care and the comfort that you were a part of providing. And I'm sure, Mr. Wandaki, you're still doing that wherever you are. And so heroes who have helped to keep people safe and healthy and promote equity and really open doors and promote opportunity for all. I don't know if these were all the things that you were thinking of, Mr. Gayter, as you put your Maskeraid, I love the title, series together, and that when you painted these portraits, but I do know that your work celebrates these individuals as well, and I'd like to thank you for your vision, for your artistic vision, and for your extreme generosity in donating these pieces to Sinai. They're going to be put in such a prominent place for everyone to appreciate both your talent and your generosity. So I look forward to having these hung up here in the hospital as a reminder of the spirit and the mission to continue to take care of everyone who comes through our doors, no matter where they come from, no matter who they are. So without further ado, I'm so excited to welcome and introduce Mr. Phil Gayter to really talk about his inspiration and his work and the message that he came to share.
Well, it started out innocently enough. 3 weeks into the pandemic, I was hopeful that it may end in like 6 weeks, like us all, and of course it didn't. So as part of the strict adherence to staying at home and trying to just get by, I decided I would do a self-portrait. And if you've seen the painting, I just crossed my arms, and it felt kind of like a mummy from ancient times, and I'm wearing the mask, and I wanted it to be intense. And once I'd done it, I realized that there was something in it, in the sense that as it continued to unfold before our very eyes, and the intensity of it, and the danger of it all, I felt really drawn to involve my family, my friends, in capturing the moments poignantly, whimsically, in some cases seriously. And a very lucky conversation with Karen Teitelbaum led me to want to do work to celebrate the fantastic caregivers, not just here in the room today, but all over the city, if you will. So on that auspicious day, I met these 3 fine folks that set about the portraits. And the strange thing is, and I think it's become part of our culture almost now, you almost get used to seeing people via their eyes. So I feel like, and this sounds a bit strange, I feel like I live with each one of you 3 as I captured you. Whenever I do a painting, I always tell folks, or always ask folks, how much time as a percentage of doing the paintings you think I spend on the eyes? Any takers for that question? I usually spend probably about 75%, 80% of the time, because I found that doing a painting, if you capture the eyes, you actually tend to capture the person. So, and then the rest, not that I'm going, okay, eyes done, I'm going to kind of slap down. It's not exactly like that, but I'm going to have once I've cracked the code on the eyes, I feel like I've caught the spirit of the people. So I'm more than proud to have done these paintings, to celebrate all that you're doing here and all that you've done, and I'm sure all you will continue to do. So without further ado, I'd like to do the great unveiling. And I'd just like to thank Dan, by the way. Dan Reagan has been instrumental in part of making this happen. And I would like to thank Karen Teitelbaum, who helped kickstart this as well. So Dan, do you want to come forward?
Wow.
I really was intrigued by the notion of it being all around. It's almost pouring on us, and I like the fact that Herbert would be confident within the challenge. So it's not taking us down. It's like a power. So I fell in love with his eyes. Now, there is a significance to the dark pink roses. When I was researching the background to the painting, I found that dark pink signifies thankfulness and thank you.
What a treat it was to listen to him talk about his inspiration and the inspiration behind these series. Thank you so much. I think it's no secret that healthcare leaders like the ones in front here and those that are gathering in the back, healthcare professionals are the heroes of this pandemic. But today I'm reminded of the words of Eric Pavanacci, who said, "It is the poets, the artists, and the musicians who will carry us through this pandemic into a new reality. For they are the ones who teach us how to think, how to feel, how to navigate, how to breathe, how to enjoy, and how to fully live our lives." This moment, this day reminds me of that. For these portraits speak not only to the compassion of Sinai caregivers, but also to the sacrifices that many of them have made throughout the pandemic. Throughout the pandemic, they have donned PPE. They've held the hands of patients whose family members was restricted from visiting, and they've spent long hours away from their own family members. The Compassionate Caregiver Fund is really simple. They provide funds and financial assistance to caregivers who are experiencing financial distress. And whether an individual has experienced a fire, needs financial assistance for funeral expenses, auto repair, child care, bills, any of the countless of things we've seen across our desks this year, the Compassionate Care Fund is there to help. And every year our caregivers are giving into this fund to help other caregivers. And so in that sense, I'm proud to say that this is a fund by caregivers for caregivers. And yet there are ways that the community members can help. In the past years of the pandemic, early years of the pandemic, we had caregivers or really community members ask us how they can help. And they gave food, they gave PPE, donations that lift the spirit of our caregivers and really help to protect our caregivers, our community members, and our patients. They asked us what we needed and then they answered the call. Today, in this setting, people can give unrestricted gifts that will help us to purchase technology, to hire highly qualified staff members, and to really run the programs and services that continue to make a difference in the lives of Chicagoans everywhere. And so thank you very special to you, Mr. Gayter. Your beautiful portraits remind us that heroes do indeed work here. Thank you.